Good morning. Welcome to the Purple Stage. I'm Leanne Potter. I direct educational outreach at the Library of Congress, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 2018 National Book Festival and to the Purple Stage. It is also my pleasure to welcome and introduce our next speaker. David Shannon is a good friend to the Library of Congress and the National Book Festival. He has presented at the National Book Festival 3 other times. He is an author and an illustrator of more than 30 books for young readers. Prior to creating children's books, he worked in editorial illustration in New York City, where his illustrations have appeared in magazines and newspapers that include Time, Newsweek, Rolling Stone, and the New York Times, as well as on books and posters. He began illustrating children's books in 1988 with How Many Spots Does a Leopard Have? And Other Tales by Julius Lester. His writing credits include How Georgie Radbourne Saved Baseball, which was named a New York Times Best Illustrated Book in 1994, and the semi-autobiographical story, No, David, which received a Caldecott Honor. He lives in Los Angeles with his family. And today, David is with us to officially launch his newest book, Grow Up, David, published by Blue Sky Publishing. After David's reading, if time allows, he will take your questions, and he'll be signing books from noon to 1 o'clock in signing line number 9. Welcome, David Shannon. And here's the clicker with the little green button.
And how do I go back?
The red button.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank
Also,
you.
so glad
That's
you're
great.
here.
Thanks. Hi. You guys look really comfy. Don't go to sleep, okay? It hurts my self-esteem. All right, so, let's see. Did it work? Yeah, there we go. It's David's birthday. Yeah. Can you believe this? No, David turned 20 years old this year. Yeah, it's been 20 years. He still doesn't look a day over 5, does he? So, yeah, so I thought I would just kind of celebrate David's birthday by just thanking everybody out there who's made David last this long and has had so much fun. I'm just going to kind of share with you guys some of the ways that people have had fun with No David, because that's what's been so rewarding for me. So there he is. I don't know if you know the story about how I got the idea for No David. Do you know that? Well, I got the idea from a book I made when I was a little kid. It was 8 pages long. I drew a bunch of pictures of me doing stuff I wasn't supposed to do. And the only words in the whole book were no and David, because that's all I knew how to spell. And my mom saved it. And many years later, she pulled it out of her magic closet and showed it to me. And I said, this might make a good children's book. So I wrote a few more words, not a lot more, just a few. And I drew new pictures, and that's where the No David that you know, this No David, that's where he come from. But this is what the original looked like. There it is, yeah. So when I first started drawing the new version of David, I drew it kind of realistically. And it lost all its personality and just fell flat and sat there, and I went, well, what was it about this original that I was responding to? So I went back and I looked at it, and I tried to draw like a 5-year-old, and that's where the drawing style came from. Here's another piece. And so whenever I got stuck on anything, I just went back to the original. So the type style, the writing, and the pointy teeth. I don't know if you can tell that that's David on a chair, And that's a box of Cocoa Krispies. Remember Snagglepuss? The exit stage left. That's what it is. There's another one of me getting into cookie dough. And do you guys realize this? That when I was a little kid, cookie dough ice cream hadn't been invented yet. Yeah, I know. Terrible. They were hard times. And you couldn't get it in rolls like that at the store. The only way you could get cookie dough was to steal it when your mom was making chocolate chip cookies. Because she would let you lick the beaters. She'd go, here's the beater. And then after that, you had to have more. So then when her back was turned, it was delicious. So anyway, you can see there's a lot of similarities between like that No David and this No David. So even the pointy teeth and stuff came from the original. So let's see, where am I? Oh yeah. So over the years, all kinds of people have been having fun with David, especially like in schools. So like teachers decorate their doors with David, and they decorate their walls with David. I love these. And they decorate their kids with David. Sometimes I go into these schools and there's whole walls of Davids. Like there's about 100 of them, and it's pretty terrifying, really. It's like an army of Davids. You know, you think zombies are frightening. Sometimes they decorate their principal. Isn't that great? I mean, you know, really. Here's another one. Personally, I think he's just made for a Christmas ornament, don't you? They make cakes. There's a lot of baking involved with celebrating David's birthday. And cake pops. And this kid's name is David, by the way. Yeah. Isn't that beautiful? Well, now, it's also very gratifying to be able to influence the youth of America. My favorite part of this picture is the hand coming in. Get your finger out of your nose. Now, just in case, though, people, don't accuse me of your kid reading my books and then engaging in bad behavior, because it's not just the David book. It's not just David that does that. You see, that happens to be the picture he's looking at right there. No influence there at all, because actually all my books make kids do this. Yeah, that's Alice the Fairy. But by far the most wonderful thing is all the letters and I have a whole collection of No David books that kids have made, and sometimes it's maybe I should have called it No Your Kid's Name Here. But they're just wonderful. There's Yes David books and No David books, and David Goes to the Zoo, and fantastic stuff. And I thought I'd read a couple of the letters. Here's a few of the drawings, first of all. I wish I could draw like this, seriously. There's David's rock band. Heavy metal, I'm sure. Look at that one. So here's a few of these letters. They're really hilarious. Okay, this is the good kind right here. Dear crazy Mr. Davy, thank you for coming. I absolutely love your books, and I hope you make more. I hope I get to see you more. I love all your books, and I am obsessed with them. You are the best book writer ever. If I get to meet you again, I will scream with joy. So this letter I saved, and whenever my family gives me too much guff, I pull out this and say, let me just read this letter to you again. But then I get these too. Dear David Shannon, I've read No David recently, and I liked it, but maybe you should write more words. You also should add a little bit more detail to the picture, like when David was reaching for the cookies. You should add little drops of sweat since he was determined and frustrated. You also should write the words of what the sounds are from, like when David was banging pots and pans. You should add like a crash or bang. I'd like that. Then the book would be more exciting and fiction readers would read it. They would get so into the book. They wouldn't know where they were. That, David Shannon, is how I want you to change this book. A lot of critics out there. I just read your book, No David. Could you please just make it so David has a towel instead of the nakedness? Do you guys know that picture of David running down the street naked? Yeah. He says, could you imagine what kids' parents would say? The parents would say, never check out or read this book again. That's why I think you should take the nakedness out. Dear David Shannon, don't eat gum. You are nasty. Listen to the teacher. You are bad. I don't like you. David, you are very bad. I don't very like you. I don't like you so much. Love, Nate. P.S. I like your books. Yeah. So I wasn't going to do any more David books. I had put that behind me because each book I try to, I don't want to just do the same book over and over again. I tried to sort of explore a different level of authority or a different set of rules because David's all about kind of breaking the rules, right? And so like after No David, the next book was David Goes to School, because that's the next level of authority is your teacher, right? She's the next person that says no to you after your mom. So, but my editor was celebrating her 25th anniversary of her imprint, and David is celebrating his 20th birthday. So my editor kept saying, I'd sure like to have a new David book. I said, no. I'd sure like to have one. And then I realized I'd been kicking around an idea about my big brother, about the relationships between siblings. And I said, well, what am I doing? This is perfect for a No David book, because your relationship with your older sibling is, that's a whole new set of rules. It's a whole new set of things that you get in trouble about, brothers get in trouble. So that's where this book came from. And let's see. So the interesting thing about siblings is they live under the same roof in the same house, but they have two different sets of rules, don't they? So like the older brother gets to do things that the younger brother can't because he's bigger and he's older, but the little brother can get away with things that the older brother can't. So, and eventually that creates some tension, which is always good for a story, a little conflict. So David wants to play football, but he's too little. Stop following me. Anybody here have a little brother or a little sister? Do they follow you around? They do, don't they? Yeah. Yeah. Stop following me. But of course, David bothers his brother too, Because his brother has things like homework. His job is to do homework. David's job at this point is just to be silly. So that doesn't go together. And my brother was very concerned about being mature. He would always say to me, "You are so immature." So my little sister and I called him Mr. Maturity. And he's still kind of like that. Yeah. But David finds ways of getting back at his brother. Oh, but then his brother retaliates. This is how it happens. Can you guys see the loogie coming down on the left there? Yeah, this is a true story. And so if I yelled for you, it says, "Go ahead, call Mom." So if I yelled for help, guess where that loogie went? In my mouth. Yeah. Otherwise, he would just drop it down and suck it back up. And then drop it down and suck it back up. Yeah, horrible things. But I've polled kids on this, and this is still going on today, this activity. So eventually, they both get in trouble because they were roughhousing. But in the end, so after they get in trouble, Mom says, Go outside and play." And David finally gets to play football. And this is how it happens, is that his brother and their friends, they're starting a football game, and they have an uneven number of players. They have 7 guys or 9 guys. And so they finally go, "David, you want to play?" And David says, "Yes." And of course he gets flattened. But in the end, both David and his brother do grow up just a little bit. And that's how Grow Up David ends. Thank you. So we have time for questions, I hope. We do? Good. All right. Anybody got a question? What's your question? Oh, okay, good question. He asked how long it took me to make Grow Up David. Well, I'll tell you, it takes a long time to make a book, because I always start out, whenever I'm doing a book, I read the story a whole bunch of times, so I know it really well, and then I get out a big piece of paper, and I start making little tiny sketches called thumbnail sketches in pencil, and they're really scribbly, and I make hundreds of them, because I'm just trying to figure out what picture is going to go on which page. And it's kind of like a puzzle, because if I change something on page 20, sometimes I have to go back to page 12 and change something there too. So when I get that all figured out, then I do full-size pencil drawings, and I make lots of mistakes, and I erase a lot, and sometimes I get mad and I crumple it up and I throw it over my shoulder and go, "That's terrible," and then I run back and I get it and smooth it out and go, "Really, that wasn't so bad." And then when I get the drawings all done, I do full-color paintings, and then I send those to the book company called The Publisher, and they take pictures of the paintings, and they put the words next to them and sew them all together and put the hardcover on. And so all of that takes about a year. It takes me about a year to do a book. So, yeah, a long time, huh? The David books take a little bit less time because I don't have to stay in the lines when I color them, which is always nice, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who are your enemies?
Who are my enemies? I hope not you. My enemies. I've never, ever been asked that before. You know, I try not to have enemies. I suppose Voldemort would be one of my enemies. Well, sometimes my brother was definitely my enemy. Yeah, and then other times he was my very best friend. So it's always nice to turn enemies into best friends. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What is it like to be an author?
What is it like to be an author? It's absolute hell. because you have to come up with ideas. And actually, I am always so grateful whenever an idea strikes me, because you always are worried that they'll stop. So what I do is I keep a special notebook, and I write down all my ideas so I don't forget them. I even write down the ideas I think are dumb, because sometimes they turn out to be the best ones, or they'll make me think of a really good idea. So, and then sometimes I'll have an idea and I'll say, oh, this is an incredibly great idea. I am a genius. And I'll write it down, and then I'll look at it the next day and I'll say, oh, this is a terrible idea. I am not a genius. So you never know. So I always keep a notebook. Mm-hmm.
How come you never see the older brother's face?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, that started out with No David, where you don't see any of the grown-ups' face. You don't see the mom's face. And there were two reasons for that. One is so that it stays at David's, like a kid's eye level, a kid's eye view of everything. The other thing was I wanted kids to be able to picture their own mom, right? I didn't want to have, a different mom. I wanted them to sort of like, whenever they read all those things that their mom says to them, I wanted them to be able to picture their mom. So in this case, I want kids to be able to picture their big brother or big sister. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite David book?
What is my favorite David book? Well, I think it's probably got to be No David, because that's the one that really reminds me of being a kid. So, and I try to do as many things to remind me of being a kid as I can. What's your favorite one? Do you have a favorite one? Oh, we don't have a mic again here. Yeah.
Grow up, David.
Oh, it is. Okay. Well, that's great. Well, a lot of times I like the one that I've just finished. So that's a good idea. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have two questions. The first one is there going to be no David here?
Is there going to be no David here? You mean, is he coming? Good gravy, I hope not.
And the other question is, never mind.
Oh, I know what your second question was. What was I going to ask? Okay, we got a couple more? What?
How old is David?
How old is David? How old are you? 3. Well, David's probably just a little bit older than you. I always think that he's about 5, but you never know. I mean, he's kind of as old as whatever kid is reading about him.
Hey, my sister
Yeah.
is
Well, let's just say he's ageless.
is 5.
5. Okay, 5. Yeah.
Do you still have a Westie?
Oh, good question. Yeah. Do you guys know about Fergus? Yeah, Fergus is my little white dog, and I put him in all my books somewhere. Sometimes he's really hidden, and sometimes he's easy to find, sometimes he's really hard to find, but he's in all my books. And he really was my dog, but I have some sad news. Fergus passed away, but he was 19 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. I'll do the math for you. That's 133 in dog years. So he had a very good life. And now I have a new Westie, and his name is Roy. And he's completely different from Fergus. The best example is Fergus thought that he was a human. Roy thinks I'm a dog. Yeah, and I'm doing a new book about Roy right now. It's called Roy Digs Dirt. And he does. But I drew him a little differently so I didn't want him to look like Fergus. So he doesn't really look like a Westie in the new book, but he has the personality. And I'm going to keep putting Fergus in all my books, so keep looking for him, okay? But listen, don't tell Roy, because Roy thinks it's him, okay? All right. You guys, it's time to vacate the stage for the next incredible author. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks to everybody who's had fun with Know David and the National Book Festival. Thank you.